Welcome back to Royalty Now, where I recreate figures from the past using Photoshop. Today's subject is Mary, Queen of Scots, recreated from this gorgeous death mask that is said to be a likeness of her, taken immediately after her execution. I've also posted a much longer full Photoshop process if you're interested in the intricacies of how I create these and not just the highlights. So Mary, Queen of Scots, is famously the first cousin of Elizabeth I of England, and both of them had a good claim to the English throne, Mary with Scotland on her side as well. Their rivalry stems decades, and it's worth looking into outside of this video. Mary was eventually executed on Elizabeth's orders in 1587 after a long imprisonment, and this wax mask was said to be taken directly from her after her execution. Now, I'm a little surprised at how little detail is available for some death masks. There are a couple of death masks that claim to be Mary, Queen of Scots, and there aren't great sources for them besides kind of just to take our word for it, come to our museum kind of thing. If you're not familiar with the death mask tradition, it's typically a wax or plaster cast of a person's face made directly after their death. You can also create a life mask, and it's with the intention of capturing their likeness or to preserve it or to paint it as a portrait later on. This death mask of Mary is called the Lennox love mask. It's made of wax, and the eyebrows and eyelashes were added later as a detail, so they are not her original eyebrows and eyelashes, which is why it was a little hard to kind of place where the eyebrows would go on this, because I kind of feel like the people that added the eyebrows added them a little bit too high. Now, I think this mask is gorgeous, and I wanted to work from it no matter what, but I'm a little skeptical of it being Mary for a couple of reasons. So, portraits of Mary from her lifetime look fairly different from this. Although they do share the same strong nose, they have kind of wide-set eyebrows, and they have this beautiful, dainty upper lip. And you can really see that in a couple of these portraits. It's just difficult to tell when you're painting from a three-quarter view versus full-on versus side profile, so it's just hard to tell if this really looks like the portraits of her and how much those were stylized. Mary was said to be a great beauty, and I find her death mask to be much more beautiful than the portraits of her that were created. So her face shape is the one thing that is painted quite differently from the death mask, where on the death mask she's got kind of a bigger jaw, and it's much more square, and in the portraits it's much more long oval face with a little bit of a double chin, and that's just not present that we see here. And I'm kind of wondering why she would be painted like that if that's not how she really looked. And some of this, I think, could be due to the weight. I read that the weight of the cast being made on the face can sometimes flatten or alter the features, which makes sense. Another reason to be possibly skeptical of this is that Mary was 44 at her execution, so this death mask looks like a serene young woman to me, with hardly a wrinkle to be found. And she was even said to have white hair at her execution because of the stress of her imprisonment, so it's a little confusing about why her skin would look so perfect and she would look so serene when she's had all this stress in her life. I also was wondering, we were talking on the Instagram about whether or not being indoors kept her skin from aging from sun exposure, although I did read that she also went riding and would do outdoor activities during her imprisonment, so it's not like she was just locked in a cell the whole time. So I'd love to hear, your thoughts in the comments about what you think of this death mask, whether or not you think it could be her. I have recreated her with natural red hair here for a more accurate portrayal of how she would have looked most of her life. I didn't want to portray her with white or gray hair. It just seemed like I wasn't giving her the dignity she deserved at the time of her death. But I would love to hear your thoughts about if you think this is Mary, Queen of Scots. I think this one is beautiful, and I plan to work for more death masks from now on.